While the Switch 2 is set to release somewhat soon, I figure a majority of people are still feeling the Switch FOMO frenzy. I've done a video like this about the PS4, and I've touched on 10 Switch games I think everyone should try. But here are 5 games you may love, or you may hate. These are the lesser-known oddities on the console. So, starting with a totally weird pick, it's Fist of the North Star Fitness Boxing. In the past year, I've actually become quite a gym shark. I've really always wanted to be more fit, and I've started going to the gym 5 days a week. I'm on Pikmin Bloom, which is a really sick app where you can count your steps and you can find Pikmin and whatever. I saw that there are actually 3 of these fitness boxing games, plus there's this Fist of the North Star one, and there's a Hatsune Miku one. Totally getting that at some point. So the original fitness boxing actually got delisted in 2023. This game is actually going to be next. It's starting to go on crazy sales, and people are being very skeptical of what that means because the first one got delisted and did the same thing, where it went super low after being $50 since the time it was out in 2018 to 2023. It's probably going to be delisted just because there's so much licensed music in it. So that Hatsune Miku one, you're going to have to get that physically pretty soon. And speaking of the physical copies, even the generic fitness boxing games are still like $50 physically. This Fist of the North Star game is also around that price tag when you try to find it online. And on things like Amazon, you can really only find the European copy. I actually have the American one, so I spent like $48 on it or something when I went on eBay. It's kind of expensive. I'm actually surprised by how expensive it is. So it might end up being a weird collector item that no one really cares about unless you're weird like me. See, I don't know a ton about the Fist of the North Star manga, but I've watched a little bit of the anime and OVAs. I'm not like a fanatic, I just kind of like it, but I really like that Sega Yakuza ripoff, Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. That game is so good, and if you haven't played it, you really should, if you like Yakuza at the very least. So, Imagineer is the developer on this. It's a Japanese company that was dead for nearly 20 years. They worked on the Super Nintendo version of Doom, and they even worked on the Game Boy Color Atelier game. From 1998 until 2018, the first fitness boxing game, they were doing absolutely nothing. So, I don't know what happened, but Nintendo pulled them out of the trenches. So at first glance, while you're doing the tutorial, the models and backgrounds looked very weird to me. They just looked a little bit too shiny and just kind of generic. It's definitely like a AA game, if even. As you play, you don't really notice it. Plus, if you think Kenshiro looks kind of odd, you can switch other instructors with money that you earn in-game. You earn money by playing your daily quest, which I'll talk about in a second, but you also earn it just by battling or free boxing or whatever else. So in the tutorial, your instructor, Kenshiro, is telling you the proper stance, how to keep your back straight, to breathe in on certain punches and jabs. They teach you the southpaw stance, which is when you lead with your right foot and your left foot is behind you. This is also somewhat of a rhythm game because you need to bob back and forth and do straights and jabs at the same time. And you can change your intensity by just lifting your hands up higher or lower. It's actually pretty good with teaching you stances and things. I've always flirted with the idea of taking boxing classes, so this has actually been kind of nice because now I know that I'm actually pretty into it. Once the tutorial is over, you jump into your daily workout. So you have to set your weight, your height, your age, and all of these things, and then it gives you an estimate of how much time you need to work out every day to lose a little bit of weight. Now, of course, I don't think I really need to tell you this, but this exercise is not going to help you as much as it is, a supplemental exercise while you're also doing 10,000 steps a day and going to the gym or whatever you're doing. It's a whole thing. Fitness is stupid, and it's sad that it takes so long to get any goals. But still, I thought it was pretty fun, and your daily exercises include a guided stretch, and then you go into like a rhythm game kind of thing where they have you do combos of straights, jabs, uppercuts, and it gets even more complicated as you progress and you unlock better exercises. So you're really made to play this like daily, if not every other day or something. Like they give you a calendar and they give you set daily quests. So these daily quests can include doing a certain number of combos or doing a battle. So battles are when you play as Kenshiro and you're fighting like well-known enemies that he's fought in the manga and anime and stuff. And in these battles, you have to get a certain number of combos, and again, as you increase the time that you play this game and you use money to unlock different characters to fight, you have to do more intense things, so uppercuts, and there's a whole step forward punch, and they all increase in difficulty. I would say that battle mode is what's actually going to be more effective than the daily workout. The daily workout is almost more of like a warm-up, but the battle really gets your heart rate up, and there actually is DLC for this game. I think it's like $25 though, so that's kind of a lot to me, and it doesn't go on sale like the game has been going on eShop. So that's kind of weird and a bummer, but you know, DLC, that's what it's good for. The DLC has very intense like heart rate workout stuff, so that's going to be better for you. And this game doesn't have a heart rate monitor, so if you know, you know, but you kind of need that so that you can stay in a target heart rate goal so that you can burn calories quicker, but whatever. The other thing is that there's actually a free mode, so you can do guided stretches, or you can decide what your daily workout is going to be more like. So maybe you just want to do the uppercuts and you want to have a higher intensity workout, so you want to do like crazy jabs and stuff like that. Now, as you play, you earn money, so you can buy outfits for your instructors, you can buy more music. The music is, again, the problem with the game, where it's probably getting delisted because of it, but whatever. You have a lot of songs to unlock. I think there's like 16 songs to unlock, and there's about 5 that you start with. So this, again, is a game that just encourages you to really play, and I really do like the calendar system because it lets you know what days you skipped, what days you're doing better on, what your fitness age is. So I'm 25, but my fitness age was like 20 or something. So anyhow, that's that game. It's kind of a weird one. I just think for the people who are kind of wanting to do something a little fun with their workouts, because I know there are some diehard gamers who are also really into fitness. I'm not quite there, but this was a good kind of stepping stone. Moving on to a game that is entirely different. It is called About an Elf from 2022. Right now, there is no physical edition of this game, and it's about $12 on the eShop, but I did end up getting it for like $3 on sale. It's kind of hard to explain what this game is even about. It's a visual novel, but it's also a point-and-click adventure game. It's really narrative heavy, and it's a good thing that that narrative is so fun to follow. So you follow Dam, D-A-M. She's a princess elf who wants to employ help in order to get the elves of the mystical land that they're on back to the former glory of what they used to be, because all the elves have pretty much gone missing, except for her and a different elf who wears a really sick outfit called Ditto. She's kind of a jerk though, so, you know, she's not the best. She ends up finding help from a weirdo cat whose name is Roland, and he likes to say yas, so, you know, that's the kind of humor you're getting when you play this game. It almost has a millennial charm to it, where they bring up memes and just, I don't know, just terms like yas that no one would say anymore, unless you were 12 in 2012, I don't know. But it's kind of awesome, regardless. It's aging, but it's still sick. There is a lot of dialogue in this, given that it is so narrative heavy, but the dialogue is fun, and it's broken up by little battle segments. The battles in this game are really interesting and wild. You have to fight bad elves. There are shark elves, there are ghost elves, there are spooky elves. There are all kinds of elves that you need to fight, and you're in different maps that are very, very original each time. There's like a snail map, there's a kitchen map, there's a cloud map, and you need to fight them with marbles, like little kid marbles. I totally had some of these, and I used to like totally try to eat them, so, you know, shout out to those of you with oral fixations, right? So these marbles are different powers, so like the red-orange one is like a fire marble, there's a blue marble that's like a water marble, and you get more marbles as you go. Each elf you're trying to fight requires a different kind of marble to be able to beat them. And instead of just being straightforward and telling you straight up it needs a fire marble, it shows you a vision of like a beach. And so because there's water, that means you need to use the water marble. If there's a guitar and there's frets and a string, it's electric guitar, so you need to use an electric marble. It's actually part of the fun. If you screw up these marble choices, you kind of get set back, so Ditto like confronts you and is like, you're an idiot, as per usual, because she tends to tell you that a lot. It trivializes like the game over screen. It's not really a thing. You get sent right back in, but you're just like berated for picking the wrong choice, so whatever. There are no fail states in reality with this game, which I kind of like because it keeps the story flowing, unlike OG point-and-click adventure games where it can be pretty cruel with how far you get set back. As you're going along your journey, you're trying to collect gummy bears because apparently those are going to help you with your Elftopia. These gummy bears can get taken away when you choose the wrong thing, but it's not a big deal because I don't think there's really a point to how many you collect. It's just kind of a MacGuffin to keep you going. You'll also search around maps at points with Roland, and you'll talk to new people, investigate towns, and get silly items like a jar of empty promises. Yeah, this game really made me chuckle sometimes. I don't tend to laugh out loud, but it did every once in a while. Now, this game will last you about 4 hours, if not a little bit more, depending on how thoroughly you're reading and how slow your text is set. You can change your text speed, by the way, which I always think is a bonus. Now, the music in this game is actually really well done, and you can even find the music on Spotify and different streaming apps, which I thought was really sick. It's very interesting. It kind of sounds disco, it kind of sounds folk, it kind of sounds poppy. It changes genres all the time, and it changes music on the dime. It doesn't really flow together all that well sometimes, but it still works. Like, if you win a marble battle, you get like a victory screen, and it's kind of awesome. So my favorite thing about this game is actually the art style, and I actually reached out to Meringue Interactive, the developers from Austin, Texas, and I was asking about what the inspiration was for this game because it looks like it could be based on real dolls, because they do kind of move back and forth as if you're playing with a doll and having them talk, and I really love that about it. They responded and said, "Thank you so much for reaching out. Our graphics use pre-rendered 3D models, similar to those seen in 16-bit era games like Donkey Kong Country. I think that the outfits and the overall like style inspiration feels very like Tatsunoko, Japanese Tokyo Harajuku. Like, it's a lot of inspirations happening, and I absolutely love it. I think that the poses are really fun, even though they're somewhat limited. Backgrounds with how they're sort of semi-realistic, but also really well rendered like clay. I love the style of this game. I think it's the main attraction to me when I first saw this on the eShop, like way back. The look of the game is like a huge shining factor of why you should play it. In 2024, Miss Rosen's Wow-tastic Marching Band came out, so it's a somewhat sequel, but also it's following a very different character and storyline, but from what I saw, because I didn't pick it up yet, it seems very similar in theme and just narrative style to the other game, with even more interesting, like, English-looking character design. So that's something to keep your eye out for if you end up liking About an Elf. ICHU Chibi Edition came out on the Switch on 2024. It was originally a phone game from 2015, but it's also had a 2021 anime, and a different game came out in 2020 on the phone as well. Opera House was the dev team for this specific Switch port, while Liber was the dev team for the original phone games, and they played a part in the anime and everything else. This is part of that genre of games that's really attracts the girls who love yaoi and idols. It's only boys that are in this game, and it's just all about 32 different idols you can get and collect and teach them as their producer or manager or whatever how to go up the chain of the pop star idol mountain. So something about this game that kind of caught me off guard was that in the tutorial there are like 9 million typos. Like, it's actually terrible how many typos and how terribly translated the dialogue is. It's too straightforward, even outside of the tutorial, but in like the story mode, which we'll get to later, the translation is just not very good. It feels very rushed, and I just can't believe that the tutorial is this ridiculously unpolished. But besides that, it does teach you how to use all of these crazy systems, because there's like a song system, there's a graduation system. You have to collect these idols, you have to train them, you have to do all sorts of things. So the tutorial is important, but it just looks like garbage, unfortunately. If you stick with it besides that, I don't really care for like all of the idol sim stuff, which I know is kind of contrary to the point of this game, but the rhythm game sections are actually very challenging and very fun. You only have 4 buttons to choose from. So you have the left D-pad, down D-pad, B, and A. And the way that the rhythm prompts come about, you should really try to calibrate, because I do feel like sometimes with the Switch remote in general, the input delay is just always there. I don't know why, but even after I tried to, make it better, it kind of was still a little bit funky, but it ended up being okay after I redid the input lag yet again. So there are a lot of songs, and there's like easy mode all the way up to nightmare mode. I could barely do hard mode, even though I'm pretty good with rhythm games, because I've done quite a few if you haven't noticed from this channel. I was just struggling, and part of it is that my reflexes with this specific game have not been up to snuff yet. But I played for about like 4 hours before I decided to talk about it in this video, and I think I'd like to play it a little bit more, because some of the songs, there's like slower beats that are kind of like saucy salsa, and then there's like full-on pop beats, and then there's like Hatsune Miku styled Vocaloid stuff. So there's quite a variety, and there are a lot of songs, so that's really what I came here for anyway. Now, outside of the music tracks, the background music in the game is pretty generic, and I have to say that a lot of the stuff in this game is kind of generic, like the background art where the character portraits are standing on top of are like very iffy. Everything looks like that shiny digital illustration where it's a little bit like flat or boring to look at. It doesn't feel like 2000s anime, if I can put it in terms of that. It feels very modern, but less polished because the budget is kind of low on this game. But in a more positive light, I do think that the portraits themselves and the character designs for all of these idols actually look pretty fun and pretty good. They're all very individual, like you've got the bad boy cool type, and then you've got the cutesy kid with the like rabbit stuffed animal, and then you've got like your self-insert, which you can actually show your model of your producer self talking to them, which is kind of cool. Your producer self does not really matter though, like you don't interact with the characters all that much. In order to get the story mode unlocked, there are 3 parts of the story mode, and then there are chapters of each one. To unlock it, you have to play through different tracks on different difficulty settings. So you'll range from like normal mode all the way to hard mode as you progress, and so it kind of teaches you how to play these levels and just replay them. And luckily you can also just like free play it all as much as you'd like. So a big factor to this game is actually the scouting for new ICHU. You have to put them in a band and train them, so you can auto-generate your band after you collect and scout these new ICHU. You can either have a team that's kind of cool, pop, or a wild team. And then once they get to a certain level, or you have too many ICHU to keep in your inventory, you can actually graduate them, so they disappear and you get money for them so that you can use that money for new songs or new ICHU or whatever. Another major plus to this game is that it is not a gacha game. It's kind of random when you're scouting what ICHU you'll get, but you can also stack up the ICHU you have doubles of and get a new ICHU. So I thought that was actually a really cool thing. It's almost like giving you the opportunity to bypass the fact that it's randomly generated. So that was a really nice touch, and I'll give them a bunch of kudos for this. All in all, I don't think it's a great game, but I do think if you like rhythm games, or if you're one of those girls who really like the idol life, this is the one for you, because there are 32 idols to collect. Also, because this is a fairly new game, I actually did get it from GameStop for $40, and that was just a month or so ago. It is kind of still an expensive game, and on the eShop, it's no better. If you want to grab this, you might want to wait just a little bit, but because it's such a small print, maybe waiting is going to screw you over, so I don't really know how to suggest this one for you. It's up to you. Alright, our second to last game is called VirtuaVerse. This is a 2020 point-and-click cyberpunk adventure by Theta Division, an Italian developer with a very small group of people who are really talented. This game looks, sounds, and plays really, really smoothly. It is like that Blade Runner game I actually talked about that in a different video. Blade Runner Enhanced is actually on the Switch, and it's also a point-and-click adventure with a new narrative based off of Blade Runner. This game is very much also, you know, based on Blade Runner like most cyberpunk things are, but the colors in this are so beautiful. Blade Runner is very drab. It's one of my favorite movies in the entire world, but it's very drab because it's trying to go for that, you know, warning, do not let this happen to your future sort of thing. Well, too bad, because it totally is. VirtuaVerse covers topics like VR technology addiction, the lack of face-to-face communication, and, you know, cyber wars even. I think that the narrative is written really, really well, which is good because there's a lot of talking in this game and a lot of questions that you can ask characters. You can pretty much talk and interact with almost everything you see, whether it be posters, people, shops, whatever. But I don't think it has the best story, and I think that comes from me being such a cyberpunk fan. Like, I really love Snatcher, I like Police Knots, I like Blade Runner, I like too many games to even count that are cyberpunk. So the topic is a little bit trite to me, but if you're someone new to the genre, especially of point-and-click adventure, this is going to be a tough one, but it will intrigue you a little bit more than I think it intrigues me at this point in my cyberpunk career. So it's about a 10-hour experience, and it can be pretty grueling because some of the puzzles are very difficult. Like, there's a lot of back and forth fetch quest kind of stuff happening. The logic of it can get kind of confusing when you have so many different items in your inventory. It can get pretty tough. But they actually offer a classic mode and a story mode. So classic mode is very hardcore. That's the version that I decided to go with, where it was a pain. It was tough. It's still doable, so if you like that sort of thing and you want to play something pretty hardcore, that's the way to go. The story mode has some puzzles actually taken out or really reduced so that it's not nearly as difficult. The main story is about you, and you're kind of a jerk guy. He's not very likable, unfortunately, and he never really is to me, but he's a good self-insert for, like, how people are going to be in this future where everyone is kind of, like, lacking social skills. But he wakes up and his girlfriend is missing, and you find her halfway through the game about, and she's part of a scary little group of people that I'm not going to go into because I don't want to spoil it for you. So the map isn't huge, but there are a lot of areas inside of the map, and all of them are pretty varied. You're going to spend a lot of time inside of each area, so let's say like a little town or an alleyway or a club. Like, all of these things are interconnected, which I thought was really nice. And again, the detail of the pixel art is absolutely incredible. The only thing I have to say, though, is that with the Switch version of this, it is a little bit jumpy when you're trying to move your cursor around, but that's always a side effect of, you know, having a Joy-Con or just an analog stick and not a mouse. So keep that in mind. I do want to give another major shout out to, like, the art direction and just the sound, because the music is really, really attractive. It doesn't just sound like a typical cyberpunk game. It kind of does, but also it includes, like, rain sounds, and it just has a very sharp nighttime rainy aesthetic that I really thought was interesting. And some of the animation sequences, just because it's calling back to older games, it's doing new things, like really, really nice cutscenes, really nice animation sequences, really nice character movements. Like, everything is very advanced. I thought it looked really, really good. I probably don't have to do too much to sell this to you, because if you're into it, you're into it. So there is a physical edition from Limited Run Games that I actually still think is pretty accessible. I even saw it at Best Buy recently. It's $34.99 if you buy the physical copy, and online it's staying about the same because it's still in print. Alright, the last game on the list is one that I feel like you have to play if you like RPGs. Moon is originally from 1997, so the same time Final Fantasy VII came out, and a couple other huge RPGs. And it was untranslated for the longest time until 2023. This is about an 11-hour experience, and it flips everything on its head when it comes to the classic RPG scenario. So you start the game as a little kid playing a CRT, and you're playing this Final Fantasy type game where you're the hero, the savior, the everything to this town as you just, like, knock people over, steal stuff from their chest, and you're just killing enemies, and you have no regard for anything because you're the hero. Nothing matters. So all of a sudden, as you're kind of playing this segment for 20 minutes, you get pulled back from the TV and dropped in as a little kid who is playing the CRT. And you see the side effects of this hero and how all of the NPCs in that hero's game are actually real living beings who can't stand the hero and realize that he tears everything apart. Like, he knocks them down, he has no regard for anything. And you're just a little kid. You don't even know if you can fit into this world, but all of a sudden, you get the quest from some high overseer of this land to give love to all of the monsters who have been killed. You're saving the monsters by catching them, and they go to this weird little moon planet at the end, but we'll talk about that later. The developers of this game actually were the same people who made the PS2 Tulip kissing game, if you know what that is. And they're also the people who did the DS Japanese-only Tingle game, so like the Zelda spin-off. They have a style that is entirely of their own, and I absolutely love them for it. This is like claymation mixed with like Copic markers mixed with watercolor. This is the game you want to play if you're tired of playing regular RPGs. It takes everything that you think and really teaches you empathy to like respect those little slime that you're killing in Dragon Quest. Now, this game can be pretty tough, and it originally did come with a guide, just like Tulip does in the American release, because it's kind of fetch quest heavy, so you're really walking around and talking to everyone. But the only problem is you don't have that much time to do that because everything is on a timer, so there's a clock on the left top side of the screen, and as you level up and gain a higher love level by catching these monsters that have been killed, you get to stay up longer throughout the day. But sometimes, I mean, these people have little lives, so it's kind of like Shenmue, where it's, you know, everything is like set at a certain time, so you need to find them quickly. And you can miss things entirely if you're not careful of how you're going about your little path. Now, you don't really need a guide, but at the same time, if you're someone who's going to get frustrated by the time schedule, it might be better for you to do it that way. I have really nothing but good things to say, and I think that the ending of the game is really heartwarming and just very eye-opening. And again, it just teaches you all about like the insignificant people really are significant. And I think we kind of need that in today's climate anyway. Another benefit to the game is that the music is really incredible, as you'd kind of expect from a PS1 sound chip. It's not like it's the highest quality, but the remaster does kind of make it sound a little bit better fidelity-wise, but regardless, I love the charm of the look and the sound of this game. It's just very PS1, and I'm always missing that anyway. Moon goes for $18 or so on the eShop, and there was a limited run release in 2023. Now, there was a big physical edition that like had stickers and all sorts of things, and that was about $100. It's gone up a little bit since then, and then there's a standard case that still comes with little goodies inside, but it's around $60 on the used market now. Not too terrible, I guess. Alright, those were the 5 games I was going to talk about today, so thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Let me know if there are any games on the Switch that you think are underrated that I should check out.